Your freedom number that funds the ideal lifestyle could be way bigger or way smaller than what you actually think. I'm Kyle, and I help people build financial systems and frameworks around the world of banking, tough money, and generational wealth. And in today's video, I'm going to be jumping into your freedom numbers, part of our Tough Money curriculum. If you have not gotten a copy of our Tough Money workbook, please reach out to me. We'll walk you through this entire framework. One of the conversations that we have in there is how to identify your freedom numbers. And this is one of the most important conversations you're ever going to have, because if you don't know what your freedom number is, you don't really know what the financial target is that funds the ideal life. And I've seen people that probably worked 10 years longer than they could have. They could have retired earlier and started living the ideal life because they didn't know what it actually took to hit that freedom number. And so maybe you're like me and you really enjoy the occupation you're in. I plan on having an active income my entire life while I build passive income. But maybe that's not you, and you say, I want to retire as early as possible. Well, knowing your freedom target is going to allow you to do that with less time and with less risk. So I've got the 5 most important financial questions pulled up here, and we're going to be talking about the very first question on our Factum 5, which is, do you know how much you should be earning in passive income to live the life you've always wanted? And you want to know this answer with a whole lot of certainty. So we're going to jump into this. This is steps 15 and 16 of our Tough Money curriculum. It's how to identify your minimum and infinite freedom numbers. So step 15 of building tough money in your life is you need to take your current annual expenses. So if you've not seen my video on savings, make sure you go and get that video. It's part of the Tough Money series. And you'll have your worksheet that you've already completed. That would look like this. And you're just going to pull that number off of that workbook page, and you're going to insert it here so you know what your current annual expenses are. And as soon as you know what your current annual expenses are, you're going to divide that by 12, and that's going to give you your total monthly expenses. In this case, the family that spends $138,000 per year, that's $11,500 per month. And now here's what we're going to use to calculate this. You take your minimum freedom number is your total monthly expenses plus $1. So if we know our monthly expenses are $11,500, as soon as you hit $11,501 in passive income, work now becomes optional. And the next step I want you to take some time and go through is, this is our 5 areas circle. And all of these areas are interconnected. They all serve a purpose. You cannot leave any of these areas out, with, I think, the spiritual component being the most important. That's going to be part of like your mission in this life. What are you doing to live a big, grand life, a life of legacy and significance? And so I want you to think for a second, if you had your minimum freedom number coming in, so whatever it costs you to live, that's called a daily burn rate. You can annualize this. You can put it into monthly terms. In this case, we're looking at it monthly. If you had $11,501 coming in passively every month, Wyatt passive income, what would that do to the other areas of your life? And so what I want you to do, if you have your workbook, is give yourself a score. If that amount of passive income was coming in, how would that change the way you show up in your spiritual life? Could you give more to the charities and causes that you love and support? Could you get that vehicle that you've always wanted to drive personally? For me, that's an orange Lamborghini. I've wanted one since I was a 16-year-old kid. Would that allow you to take your family on bigger, better, nicer, longer vacations and connect more with those kids that you love? Your spouse that you adore? Financially, you've already won. So then how does that affect your occupation? Could you go into an occupation and just like live your sole purpose? Or would that allow you to stay in the current occupation with just way less pressure and risk, because you don't really need to be there building an active income? So give yourself a score on how hitting this number would affect the other areas of life. And this is going to be a part of your why are you going to do this? Because I believe the only reason to win financially is to go fund the missions in the other areas of your life. And I've seen too many people in my short amount of time on this earth, 37 years, I've seen too many people, their only measure of success in life was a financial number. And if your only measure of success is more of that number, that is a recipe for a very unfulfilling life. It's unwinnable. So you have to know, what is that number funding? How do you know when you've gotten there? And so you can enjoy it and have gratitude along the way. If you can't be grateful for what you have now, you definitely won't be able to be grateful when you have 10 times more. It just doesn't work out that way. If you're not a giver now, having more money automatically does not make you a stronger giver. You've got to learn to give, live, spend, earn now so you can just amplify that in the future. Hitting your freedom numbers does just that. It will amplify whoever you are currently. It does not change who you are. So once we have that number identified, now I'm going to set another target. So the minimum freedom number is your first target you're going to go after. And that's the number that allows you to have work be optional. Now, there's another calculation. I call this your infinite freedom number. And this is the number that unlocks all of the wildest dreams and ambitions you've had, even from like a young child. And so the way I would calculate this is step 17 of Tough Money. You're going to take your minimum freedom number and you're going to add a multiple to this. So for me, I like to use a 10x multiple for this. And the way I think about this is take your minimum freedom number, times it by whatever multiple you think. In this case, it's 10. So if I have $115,000 every single month coming into my life, does that number allow me to do everything I ever imagined? So if I have designed my life, here's what I want my life to look like 5, 10, 15 years down the road, in the spiritual area, with my personal area, the family, my occupation. If I've got $115,000 a month coming in, does that allow me to drive the Lamborghini, to give, $30,000 a month away to charities and causes, families that I love and support? Does it allow me to go on, 3-month vacations, be gone for a whole season with my family and world school them? Whatever those things are on your list, it's going to allow you to develop and amplify everything you want to do in those 5 areas of life: give, live, spend, earn, experience. And so what's interesting about this too is if you're having these conversations with your spouse, I've seen it so many times where when I ask this question to a couple, he might say, that's 3 times what our minimum freedom number is. If we were making $20,000 a month instead of $8,000 a month, that would be our infinite freedom number. And then I asked her, I said, what's your number? She said, oh, my number is like 80,000 a month. And so there are way different pages. And so we got to come together as a couple and make sure your spouse is on board with us too, so that we're all running in the right direction. And so once you have that infinite freedom number identified, that's the one that's going to help you live abundantly in all areas of life. That's a max potential life. Now, here's where I see a lot of people go wrong. Let's look at the common American financial statement. And this is what's preventing, I think, a lot of Americans from reaching this freedom number in a 5, 10, or 15-year time period. And a lot of Americans, unfortunately, have bought into this idea that it's going to take them 30 years to hopefully, maybe retire. And see, as money's coming through our life, there's really only 4 things we can do with it. We can spend it, donate it, hold it, and invest it. And unfortunately, Americans spend too much money. Hopefully, we're donating some. And instead of saving money, we kind of bypass savings and we automatically invest in assets that don't necessarily give us passive income or control of those dollars. These would be things like 401ks, IRAs. There's nothing necessarily wrong with those, but if your goal is to fund the ideal life and you need income to do that, this strategy of what you're looking at the screen is keeping so many people from actually getting ahead and accomplishing that goal. And a very important step we skipped is the whole savings and cash reserves position. Here's what the path of money should have looked like for every one of us. As money comes into our life, we're spending just enough, we're donating some, the rest is called savings, and where we hold that wealth makes a remarkably big difference on our wealth plan. Once we have control and accessibility of those savings, then we're going to very intentionally invest those dollars into assets that produce passive income. And the more you do that in the shortest amount of time, you're going to reach that freedom number quickly. And the encouraging part about this is once you hit that minimum freedom number, you're so much better at the money game. What might have taken you 10 years to hit your minimum freedom number, going from years 11 to 20, you could 5 or 10x that first number you hit because you are better at the money game, you got better habits, you have better strategies, better assets, more of them, and you probably have much stronger relationship capital in your life, which means you've got a team that's helping support you as well. And so if you want to hit those infinite freedom numbers and live that max potential life, you've got to understand the sequence of money. And so remember, always choose truth over trends, education over products, and people over profits. Make sure you reach out to me and book a free Path of Money analysis. I'll walk you through your exact numbers and where you're at so we can get you to that infinite freedom number in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of risk.